The rainforest is full of secrets, but one secret, hidden beneath a thick, endless sea of green, was never meant to be found. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video. That is, until one curious man made a decision that changed everything. Diego, a seasoned tour guide in the Amazon, had seen it all: rare birds, ancient trees, even signs of long-lost settlements. But nothing, not even in his wildest dreams, could have prepared him for what his drone captured one fateful morning. It was supposed to be routine. Every week, Diego flew his drone over the same jungle route to map out new trails for tourists. The dense canopy made it difficult to see much from the ground, but the bird's-eye view from the drone gave him a safe way to scout. As usual, he launched his device, watching the screen as it soared above the emerald roof of the jungle. But then, something strange happened. The camera feed showed a huge break in the treetops, a massive clearing that hadn't been there just a week ago. Diego leaned in, eyebrows furrowed. That opening definitely hadn't been there before. Had there been a landslide? Flooding? As the drone crept closer, the magnitude of the clearing became clear. A wide valley had seemingly appeared overnight, carved into the landscape like a scar, its floor layered in dark soil and debris. But that wasn't what made Diego gasp. Down there, hundreds of feet below, the drone camera picked up strange shapes littering the ground. They weren't rocks. They weren't trees. These were man-made, massive, dozens, maybe hundreds, of enormous stone-like objects, each uniquely shaped and positioned with eerie precision. Diego's jaw dropped. "What are those?" he muttered aloud, his heart racing. He pushed the drone lower, brushing the tops of the newly exposed valley walls, descending into a place that likely hadn't seen sunlight in centuries. The deeper he went, the clearer the shapes became. They were covered in ancient markings. Some were upright, some half buried in the soil. And then, just as the drone spun to capture a panoramic view, something flickered across the screen. A shimmer, a flash, just a glint in the corner of the lens. And then, crack! The screen jerked. The drone spiraled and slammed into the valley floor. Diego's breath caught. Something had hit it, or someone. Panic pulsed in his chest, but so did curiosity. Whatever was down there didn't want to be seen, and that made it even more important that he find out what it was. Gathering his gear, Diego made his way through the jungle. 3 miles of twisting vines, steep slopes, and sweltering humidity. He climbed, slipped, pushed forward, finally reaching the edge of the valley. From above, it was even more surreal. The massive objects, now visible with the naked eye, looked ancient, sacred, like they belonged to a different world. Diego tied a rope to a sturdy root and began his slow descent. It took over an hour, but finally, feet covered in mud and hands raw from the rope, he stepped into the valley floor. The air was still, eerily quiet. The strange objects surrounded him, each more massive up close than he had imagined. He ran his fingers along one, stone, worn, and covered in indecipherable carvings. Then, in the corner of his eye, he saw it. The drone. It was crumpled, but intact. Diego sprinted to it, relieved to find it still operational. He packed it carefully into his bag. But he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He scrambled out of the valley just before sunset. Back at camp, he uploaded the footage. He needed someone to see this. So he showed his colleagues, excited by what he had discovered. That was his mistake. The next morning, chaos. Hundreds of reporters, researchers, government officials, and curiosity seekers had gathered outside his home. Cameras flashed, microphones shoved in his face. They all wanted one thing: to see the valley. Diego was stunned. He hadn't spoken to the media. Someone from his team must have. And now the secret he'd uncovered was out. The scientists were eager to excavate. The reporters wanted a story, and the valley was no longer a mystery. It was a target. Reluctantly, Diego agreed to guide them, on one condition: respect the land. The group was massive, and descending into the valley took hours. But once they arrived, gasps echoed across the clearing. The cameras rolled, lights flashed. The sacred quiet that once hung in the air was shattered. And yet, something didn't feel right. Diego broke away from the group, exploring a quieter edge of the valley. As night fell and the visitors began climbing back up, he lingered. He told them he'd be the last one out. He wanted one more look at the place that had now changed forever. That's when he heard the footsteps. Not his. Not anyone from the expedition. Someone or something else was still in the valley. Diego froze, his heart pounding in his ears. For a moment he tried to convince himself it was just an animal, a monkey maybe, or a jaguar. But deep down he knew better. The footsteps were deliberate, heavy, human. He glanced over his shoulder but saw nothing in the dim moonlight, just shadows flickering between ancient stones. Then, a figure darted between two monuments, a quick blur that vanished almost as fast as it appeared. Without a sound, Diego crouched behind one of the large stone slabs, forcing himself to breathe slowly. He had to think. Whoever, or whatever, was still in the valley had either been left behind, or had never left at all. Slowly, cautiously, he peeked around the monument, eyes scanning for movement. That's when he saw them. Not one, but a group, barely visible in the darkness. They were small, silent, and barefoot. Painted bodies, spears in hand. Indigenous people. A tribe. His mind raced. He had heard rumors of lost tribes deep in the Amazon, but to actually witness one, hidden here all this time? It was almost unthinkable. And worse, they were watching him. Suddenly, a sharp voice cut through the air. A command. The group moved swiftly, surrounding him. Diego raised his hands, terrified. Then, from behind them, an older man stepped forward. Unlike the others, he wore beads, feathers, symbols of status. The chief, perhaps. He pointed at Diego's bag, demanding to know what he carried. With trembling hands, Diego pulled out the drone. The chief studied it, murmured something to his people. Then, to Diego's surprise, he waved a hand and turned away. The others followed. They didn't harm him. But the message was clear. Leave. Diego stood alone in the sacred valley, shaken. He had stumbled into something ancient, hidden, and fiercely protected. He turned, and without looking back began the climb out of the valley, knowing some mysteries weren't meant to be shared.